Ali je že jasno, kaj Brexit zares pomeni? Z mano je Sophie, britanska veleposlanica v Sloveniji. Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah. Is it tough to be British ambassador in times when Great Britain is leaving European Union?
I think this is a fantastic time to be British ambassador. For a start, Slovenia's just been celebrating 25 years of independence. We've been sharing that with you, and next year we mark 25 years in our diplomatic relations, so I'm really looking forward to that.
But you're going out, and this is not just a move, it's a stretch. Sea change, opening of the Red Sea, reaching promised land, so to speak.
So yes, you're right. The British people voted earlier this year to leave the EU, but we are part of Europe. We're staying in Europe. So for me, this period, it's about change. We've had a very strong and important relationship, and that relationship is changing tack slightly, changing direction, but it's still going to be important. So for me, it's a great time to be ambassador because I'm part of that conversation.
Yeah, but the British High Court has ruled that Parliament alone has the power to trigger Brexit. So, if Parliament says no to Brexit, the Brexit is off, no matter what government says.
Well, Marcel, let's just take it back to basics. It was Parliament in the UK that agreed by a very large majority that we should have a referendum to decide on our future in the EU. And the British people decided by a decisive majority that they wanted to leave the EU. So it's now the government's role to implement that and do what
Parliament
passed.
Can't go against the will of the people.
Parliament will be consulted, but I think there are very few MPs in the UK who would want to discount the views of the British people and take a fundamentally different course.
Yeah, but Brexit is something we are told that must not be denied by politicians. But listen, democracy means giving the majority a hard time, isn't it?
I don't think, no, that's what democracy means. Democracy means that you elect your representatives to Parliament to take decisions for you. There are some decisions which are of such importance that you decide through your parliamentarians to put them to the popular vote. We don't do that very often in the UK. In Slovenia, that happens more often, sometimes on smaller issues, but on some issues like this one, we decided to put it to the people, and that's what was decided.
But now everything seems to be shrouded in uncertainty. The terms of exit, future trade agreement between UK and European Union, the very process of Brexit, and yeah, of course, no one has any idea where that is going to end up. So 52 of voters say yes to Brexit, not knowing what Brexit really means.
So 52% of the population, yes, voted for change, and it's the role of government to implement that and figure that out. So that's what's happening now. So there's a very broad consultation in the UK through government with business about the sort of relationship that we want to have. But I think there's recognition right across politics, business, society in the UK that we still want a close relationship, whether that's close economic ties, close cooperation on foreign policy and security. But there was also another thing that came through very strongly in the referendum was that people did want to have more control of immigration.
Yeah, but the problem is there is no place to look to when evaluating the effects of leaving the European Union.
Well, it's about us, the UK, with our partners like Slovenia, discussing and determining what that future looks like. So when you say shrouded in uncertainty, I wouldn't agree.
It is shrouded.
No, it's not, because it's to be discussed and to be agreed. And one of the things I really enjoy about being British ambassador here is that we have very open and frank dialogue with the Slovene government. And in all of the contexts that I've been involved in since the referendum, that has definitely come through.
Well, for starters, you will lose a bunch of good jobs in Brussels, and those are very lucrative jobs.
Well, it's actually for the Commission in Brussels to decide that, and they've actually said to UK nationals who are working there, who are Commission employees, that they want them to stay, but that's for the Commission to decide.
Scotland might leave Britain, as their First Minister, Sturgeon, says.
Well, as you know, we had an actually decisive referendum in 2014 on Scotland's position within the UK, and the Scottish people decided to stay within the UK. So that's why, as part of this consultation that I was talking about, there are very deep discussions with the Scottish Government as well, and with Northern Ireland and Wales, about the approach that we should take and about the future relationship that we want to build as the UK with our EU partners.
But they're planning for a second referendum in the event of hard Brexit. So if you don't negotiate a good deal with the European Union, they might leave.
So you're right, Nicola Sturgeon has held out the option that she might want to pursue that down the line, but the referendum that took place in 2014 holds, and that's the approach that we're taking at the moment. So there are very close discussions within government about the approach.
In all divorces, everything comes to money. And this could be the most expensive divorce in recent history. What would the price tag of Brexit be?
Well, I don't think it's necessarily a negative result. So any change is difficult, and we have to find the way forward. And the best way to do that is through open and constructive discussions. So that's what I think and hope that we will have next year. But we'll need to talk about how we keep growing trade between the UK and the EU, between the UK and Slovenia. It's been on an upward trend ever since Slovene independence 25 years ago. But we also need to talk about other issues, about how we continue to work on foreign policy, on security issues. But from the UK's perspective, and this was something that came through in the referendum, there is a need to get more control of migration. Because the UK has one of the fastest growing populations. So at the moment we have net migration of 300,000 people per year. So that's a bit like, over this course of 7 years, equivalent to Slovenia's population joining
But you will not do the same thing as Trump announced to do in the United States, to just deport people.
It's not for me to comment on what President Trump has just said, but no, there's no suggestion that people who are already resident and have rights to stay in the UK would leave. Absolutely not. But there is a desire to look at the future arrangements because it puts so much pressure on public services when you have a population that is growing so quickly, and many British people felt that that was unsustainable and that we needed to find a way to change that.
Now, speaking of divorce, do you think it'll be a nasty one?
No, I don't.
Because Article 50 of Lisbon Treaty is not designed to make it easy for a state to leave the European Union, and it would surely be applied so.
So Article 50 is untested. This is the first time that it's being used, so we're charting new waters, and we have to do that together and constructively. But I think at the end of the day, it's certainly in the UK's interest to find a positive way forward that works for the EU, and I think it's also in the EU's interest, because the EU is our biggest trading market, and the UK is also a huge trading market for the EU. So yes, these things are difficult, and we have to find a way forward. But at the end of the day, I think it will be in everyone's interest to find a new path, a new momentum, which is constructive and which works for everyone.
Angela Merkel said that accommodating Britain would set a precedent that would undo Europe, because other members of the European Union would also seek a better deal for themselves or call for their own exit strategy.
Yeah, but she's also said that it's important to look at this constructively and engage in open and frank discussions, and that's certainly been the nature of the relationships that my government has had with her.
But what would count as success for your part, your side?
That is something that we are still looking at the moment. So that's why we are engaged in discussions with all sectors of business in the UK to understand for different sectors what sort of access to the single market is most important, where EU regulations affect them are most important, and really understanding that, so that when we start negotiations, once Article 50 has been activated next year, then we will be in a strong position to know from the UK perspective what would be a great outcome, and hopefully then to match that with EU interests and try and find that new path.
Would Brexit make Britain great again?
Britain is great. We're Great Britain.
Yeah, will EasyJet still be easy?
I think EasyJet's fantastic. I use them a lot.
Okay. Madam Ambassador, thank you very much.
Thank you.